Thank you, fellow Toastmasters, and honor again. First of all, go Heels, despite the fact that we had a very nice slaughtering this weekend with ECU. So the first question I have for you is, how many of you want to do better at your job? Okay, that seems pretty familiar here. How many of you are part of an association that is with your industry so that you can do better with your job? Okay, we have a few people here. So my point of this speech is for those of you who are not part of an association to get you to start thinking about joining an association, and for those of you that are part of an association to help you start thinking about getting involved. The more you put in, the more you get out of it. So let's start a little bit with the Trade and Professional Association. What are they? Now, Toastmasters is an amazing organization. I'm not dealing anything with organizations like this. I'm dealing with something specifically to the industry that you are working for. If you are an attorney, perhaps you are with the bar, but if you're an estate planner, maybe you're with the Charlotte Estate Planning Council. If you're a real estate broker, you're with the National Association of Realtors. Each of these organizations are here so that you are able to learn a little bit more about your industry so that you can also have a number of benefits by joining. And that's what I'm going to talk about for you today. So first of all, organizations such as the National Association of Realtors began in 1911 because at the time real estate brokers didn't have a really good reputation, and they wanted to get together and make sure that real estate brokers had a better reputation and had a way that they could build their reputation, A, as a broker, and B, to get known as a local, to build the reputation of being a local expert in their field. As the National Association of Realtors grew, it broke down into 50 state associations, and then broke down to local chapters. There's the Charlotte Region Commercial Board of Realtors, the Charlotte Region Realtor Association as well, but each of the counties of North Carolina, for example, usually have an association of realtors. Now, I gave you that example because a lot of you have probably seen those ads on TV for the National Association of Realtors to buy a house, to get involved. That's one that's become predominantly in the news whenever things are going down with the industry. But there's probably an association for whatever you do for a living. And that's one of the things that I would recommend doing a quick Google in order to find out. When you find the organization, what you're going to find is a list of benefits that these organizations will give you. Yes, you do have to pay dues, but here's what your money probably goes to. Lobbying, in order to make sure that as a collective whole, your industry and your organization is represented at local, state, and national levels. You'll also receive research and resources that each of these organizations have been able to compile that you might not be able to do as an individual. Such as, if we're going back into the real estate example, how much are houses going in different industries? How are people selling better? What resources are they using? This is a form of communication that you can get by speaking to people from different chapters of the organizations that you're a part of, thus giving you a few more benefits so that you are able to learn more and able to use it in your own day-to-day workings. Some of the resources that you'll also find are career resources. When my title was membership at my old job, I spent a lot of time with people calling me, asking, A, how do I get into the industry? Or B, how do I get better at my industry? And one of the things that many organizations have are education for you. If you're a lawyer, you need CLE. If you're an accountant, you need CPE. If you're a real estate broker, you need Ed hours for your license as well. And many of the organizations provide specific education for you, for your specific job, catered to you. And that's one of the very good reasons for joining an organization. Usually a member discount for the education, and you usually have some of the experts in the field within the region or within the local, state, or national area. One of the things people have always said when they join an organization is that they're worried because they've just joined an organization with their competitors. And that's sometimes a question that people have. Well, how is that going to help me? We're all vying for the same little piece of land here. What can we do? Actually, this is A good question, and you're always going to have a little bit of that friction between the people, especially depending on your industry. However, this is a really good way for networking, so that you know who's making the deals, what's going on, how to get involved, and if for some reason you decide you want to change companies, there's a really good way to find a job. You're getting to know people that you have been working with throughout the years, you're building your reputation, and then you're able to say, you know, I've worked with you for 5 years, I've been on the board of this organization, you've seen me get involved, I'd like to join your company. And usually that kind of paves the way instead of, hi, you don't know me, I would just like to join your company. That's one of the things that I would say if to kind of cater against the competitive worry on this. Finally, and this is the last thing that I'm going to give you just as a quick list here of benefits that you can receive. Many organizations have built alliances with different vendors that you can receive their benefits for, whether it's software, education, as I've said earlier, books, conferences. Because they have a lot more clout than the individual, they are able to say, I can sell this software for this price. I'll work with this company. And that's one of the things that saves you money. If you're a small business owner, definitely something to think about. Now, I've rambled off a lot of different benefits for joining an association, mild for getting involved. But what I did to help you make it a little bit easier, there is actually an association for people who work for associations. It's one that I've been a part of for a while. But they have a list of associations. So you can look up, see if your association's involved. If not, you can also just start Googling industry and association. See what you can find. Get involved at the local level, get to know everybody in the Charlotte area. Get involved further up and you'll be able to learn more for your actual career. Thank you.
Take a look around the room. By show of hands, do you see someone that looks different from you? Some of us are tall, some of us are short, some of us have hair, some not so much. Some of us are white, some of us are black, some of us are male, some of us are female. All of us in this room are different. However, there is one thing that we all have in common. And that thing is that at various times, for various reasons, we all deal with fear. Every one of us deals with fear. I dealt with fear just getting here today. Some of the normal fears that we'll see people have will be the fear of failure, the fear of loneliness, fear of rejection, fear of ridicule, fear of heights, fear of bugs, and even fear of speaking. When I was preparing for this talk, I came across a top 10 list. And on that list, the seventh most feared thing was death. And number one, can anyone in Toastmasters guess what that might be? It was the fear of speaking. Which kind of makes me wonder if some people would rather be in the casket than read the eulogy. So we all deal with fear. But have you ever taken a moment to think about what fear is? Fear is defined as an unpleasant emotion that is created by the belief that something or someone poses danger, will cause pain, or is even a threat. So that's what fear is. Fear is created by a belief. Now, the interesting thing about fear is that fear can either be caused by something that is either real or imagined. Real or imagined. And so when you get gripped by fear, think about it for a moment. What happens to you? You start to shrink. Your heart starts to race. Your breathing becomes accelerated. And many of us, our palms will even become sweaty. Right? That's what happens when we get gripped by fear. But most of the things, if you think about the list of things that we fear, you realize that most of those things are things that are created by our thoughts, by our belief system. I heard an acronym that says, fear is defined as false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. And so what that tells me is that when we're gripped by fear, we're overcome by some thought that is causing our body to have this chemical reaction that we typically describe as fight or flight. And I'm here to suggest to you today that if you're going to defeat fear, the way that you defeat fear is simply by facing it. You've got to show up. 9 times out of 10, you're going to win if you just show up. See, when fear grips us, a lot of times we will lose before we even get started. And so one of the examples that I can think of in dealing with fear comes from a time when I was about 10 or 11 in Jamaica. My brother and I went to play a badminton tournament in Kingston, and we stayed with our neighbor, Raymond James. And Raymond had a next door neighbor named Kendall. And so we went to Kendall's house and we decided that we were going to play some soccer. And Kendall was a very proud young man. He thought he was the best at everything. He was an only child, so he always wanted to win. And so my brother and I said, yeah, we're going to show him today. And so as we started to play soccer, we started to beat him goal after goal. Goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, goal 4, goal 5. And not only that, because he was so braggadocious, because he was so braggadocious, we decided that we were going to taunt him. So every time we would score a goal, we would ridicule him. We would taunt him, and we would poke fun at him. Every single time we would score a goal, we would say, "Oh man, look at us! We're winning the game." And Kendall got mad. We could see that with every time that we scored a goal, every taunt, every jeer, that he would get angrier and angrier and angrier, and we could tell because he started to huff and puff, and his nostrils started to flare. At one point, I thought fire was going to come out of his nose. And when he got sick and tired of us taunting him, he snatched his ball back and said, "Give me my ball." And the next words that left his mouth shocked me and my brother and I into paralysis. He said, "Leave my yard." And my brother and I looked at each other like, did we just hear what we thought we just heard? And he said again, "Leave my yard right now." And so we said, okay, because the conviction in his voice, the ferocity in his eyes told us that he meant business and he was serious. And so I'm suggesting to you that whatever it is that you are afraid of, whatever it is that the story plays in your mind, whatever it is that causes you to shrink, that causes you to not want to show up, you have to get sick and tired of being taunted. You've got to get sick and tired of losing to your fears. You've got to get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you've got to take your ball back, and you've got to tell fear to leave my yard. And so, in short, all of us are different, but all of us are the same in the respect that we have something that we fear. And the only way to overcome the equinox of our fear is to face it head on. Thank you.
All right, 1 second to set up.
Angela, how many minutes is this? I don't have that on my
5 to 7.
agenda. Pardon?
5 to 7.
Thank you.
Paul, have to do anything, turn it on? Okay. A pen, a notebook, and Evernote. I'm doing the Advanced Communication series.
The purpose of today's speech is a demonstration speech. What I wanted to do today was give you guys something valuable, something that I thought I might be in a unique position to deliver. I'm pretty good with technology. My job requires me to explore new technology, to teach clients, to deliver new solutions. And so what I wanted to do today is share a best practice I have. Why? I believe in sharing best practices. I believe that if we all share our ideas, if we all talk about what we're doing on different things such as organization, that we can become better. I also believe in taking notes. I think that if you go to a business meeting, that a notebook and a pen are your best friends. Younger generations prefer pulling out computers or tablets, and I think there is a place for that. However, sometimes people wonder, is he looking and listening to me, or is he looking at his email? Is that person on their computer, are they really listening to what we have to say, or are they staying on the subject, or have they started playing solitaire or something like that? So I believe a notebook and a pen are your best friends for going about your business world. This is the one that I carry. I believe that writing down what you're supposed to take care of and your responsibilities are important. However, I believe in efficiency, and these things get filled up. These books quickly get filled up, and pretty soon you forget what date you're looking at for a certain responsibility or what date you met with a client. So I needed to find something better. I needed to find a way to be able to search, and I found that with Evernote. All right, so what do you need to have something that is searchable, something that streamlines the process for getting rid of all that paper, years and years of paper potentially? Well, you got to have a computer, which probably all of us already do. You have to have a smart device, be it an iPhone or an iPad or some sort of modern smart device, and you have to have the free Evernote application. That's it. Beyond your pen and paper, that's it. And these are all things that you might already have. Now, what does Evernote look like on your computer? All right, this is a busy display. All right, there's a lot going on here, but it's actually pretty easy. Evernote is set up so that there is notes, there's notebooks, there is, in this case, an example of notebooks. I use a little bit of the getting things done technology. I use, notebooks for things that I have to do, like tasks or projects that I'm working on, or customer notes. I've got a section for customer notes. But basically, in the end, you're only just taking a new note and you're putting it on there. And I think I skipped over one here real quick. Hold on 1 second. I did. My haste to click. I did not explain a little bit about Evernote. Evernote's just something I take for granted, and that's how I pass by it. It's just a free application. It's free software for note-taking and archiving. It works with formatted text or typed text. It works with web pages. It works with voice memos. If you were to record something and put it on there, you could do that. It works with pictures. It works with handwritten notes. Handwritten notes. That same notebook that I keep referring to. And it works on all modern smart devices and computers. And flip back to where I was. We know what we need. So this is what it looks like. You're going to take your notes. You're going to have your paper. You're going to have your pen and paper. But then you're going to go and you're create a new note. You're going to title it. And you're going to put it in a section. Get it organized, because really, you'll have a chance to search that. On your smart device, it has the same type format. It has, on your smart device, the same notes. It has the same notebooks. And so you can start sorting your notes. I think I mentioned a second ago that I have a customer notes folder. I have a whole folder of customer notes. And imagine years going by. And every time you want to find a particular customer, let's call them ABC Company. Notes for ABC Company. They're all right there, and they're searchable. Now that all sounds great, but How do we do this? Brian, I don't like technology. How do we do this? All right, well, you take your notes just like normal. You write them down. You use your pen and paper. And then you take a picture of your notes with your smart device. You just pick up your smart device and snap a picture. Now on iPhones and iPads, you actually have the ability to crop a picture and size it just around your notes. So if you had a whole page of notes and you only wanted this one section, you didn't want the grocery list down below it, you could just take a picture of that just one section. Then you open up Evernote, you add some information to the note, you title it however you want, and you click on a button that says Add Picture. You add the picture and then you're done. Now, you can actually search. So for example, in this particular picture, I went to the search icon, which on most computers is just a picture of a magnifying glass. I typed in speech, and notes with the word speech started popping up. Now remember, I said that works also on handwritten notes. This is what it looks like searching for the word call on a handwritten note. I have very sloppy handwriting. I was meant to be a doctor, I think. This is good handwriting, but even on bad handwriting, it works. That's it. All of a sudden, you're able to go through notes just by searching for keywords, promises made, whatever it may be. And you can go through years of notebooks. That is it. That's all there is to it. And so my best practice for you guys is sharing how I keep organized, how I keep my customer information sorted and organized, how I keep track of deliverables, and how I take pen and paper, which is more user-friendly, in a group, and stay organized.
In the meeting, I'm actually going to come out and give a more general evaluation of the other roles that were performed in the meeting. But the goal from the evaluating team that's going to come up is primarily to encourage the speakers emotionally with their presentation, with their 2 to 3 minute speech, but also in that to provide some constructive feedback. The evaluators will follow the same speaking order, and because we don't have much time, I'm just going to quickly introduce the evaluators. But what's interesting is that all of our evaluators are somehow involved in the financial field, while each of them are probably involved in some part of sales and customer service, because aren't we all in all of our jobs. I found it interesting that our first evaluator, Brendan Dignan, is actually involved in the financial products and on the operations side. So can you please welcome Brendan.
Good afternoon, everyone. I had an opportunity to evaluate Emily's speech, Get to the Point, which is the 3rd speech out of the Competent Communicator Manual. And when you look through the criteria that it lays out, it wants you to be structured in the way that you put the speech together. And I think Emily did an excellent job of that this afternoon for the group. When you looked at the way you laid out the speech, Emily, it was great because at first,
General Evaluator, fellow members, especially Damian. I can tell you that I was gripped with fear today when I found out it was my role to evaluate Damian, and Damian was asking me for some constructive feedback, and I already knew he was quite a good speaker from the previous speeches we've seen from Damian, but nevertheless I faced my fear and I took some good notes during Damian's speech. Wish I would have had Evernote out, but maybe that'll be for the next time. So the focus of Damian's speech today was to work on his body language. This is his 5th speech. And as far as the topic goes, I thought it was a good topic about facing your fear. It gives you some opportunities to show how we may be gripped with fear and how our hearts might race when we experience fear. In the beginning, I thought that element of the speech did start out a little bit slowly, but you did start to get into the speech more. And you had some stories, and you did bring in the body language to the speech, which was good. So I thought the topic was quite good. And you certainly seem well prepared for the speech, getting out in front of the podium with no notes, confidently delivering your story, confident body language in terms of a couple things to watch for, particularly during the soccer story, which you got quite into, saying we would, a couple of those other things which can be fillers during the speech, 1 or 2 more times with a practice, maybe you could eliminate some of that. Again, quite a very confident presence here, great posture. Gestures were pretty good. I mentioned a couple of them as well, but I do think that there may have been some opportunity to interject some more creative and colorful body language as well, especially in a speech like this, maybe showing us how the soccer game took place. I've seen you, I think, in your first speech, I remember moving around, crouching down like a tiger. So I know that you have it in you to really get creative with that body language. There may have been some opportunities for that here. But eye contact with everybody in the audience was good, especially in the beginning when you opened with that question to bring everybody into your speech. Facial expressions showing us, happiness to fear and concern when your friend had told you to get out. And I want to point out, too, some of the vocal variety, which actually goes up into your next speech, but I think that's one of your best characteristics as a speaker, your voice, the variety, and what a great use of pausing during the story when you had essentially kind of freaked out your friend at that point, and he had all he could take, and you stopped, and he said, "Get out." That was really good, and that brought us all in terms of that part of the story. Just a couple of other elements to work on with the speech aside from the body language. I thought that you took us through a nice organization of introducing the concept of the fear, telling us that we need to face it, and giving us a way that somebody did that. I think you could have helped us along that with maybe some more clear transitions. We got a definition of fear in the beginning, another definition kind of a third of the way through. Help us along through the speech. Now I've got a story for you on how somebody was able to overcome their fear. And again, work on some of that creative body language any way you can bring it in, especially when you're looking to work on it. At the end too, that sneaking in that equinox for that word of the day, I know you're trying to get in there. I thought it was okay. I don't know if that was, well, I'll defer to the grammarian on that part. But overall, it was a great speech. I enjoyed listening to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Certification as what you want to achieve, look at that as the first level of what you want to achieve, and have in mind other things you want to do. So there were 6 basic points that I was asked to evaluate from the manual for Brian's speech, and I'll just cover them because they serve as a good outline for this evaluation. I do want to note up front that this manual asked the speaker not to use notes, and we'll get into that in a minute. But was the speech relevant to our needs? And I think it was, because he essentially got our interest right up front by offering a tool that we could all benefit from, to stay organized, to keep track of our notes, and to be able to better utilize those in our jobs. So yes, it was relevant right away. That was important to me. What was the impact for me? Well, the impact was I never heard of Evernote, and it seems like a very simple tool, easy to enact, and everybody likes free. So that's a good thing. Was it appropriate? Was his method of demonstration appropriate? Now this is the area where I had a few question marks, because essentially the outline of the speech was designed so that the speaker could prepare a demonstration speech to clearly explain a process, product, or activity. And this is where I was getting to the question about notes, because he didn't use specific notes, but his speech was on a slideshow that essentially served as the notes for the speech. So it was questionable to me as to how appropriate that was. Overall, though, it came across very well because it was organized, it was well presented, the notes were not jumbled and not too much information. You only had minimal points on each one. So that part was very good. I do simply question whether or not a different demonstration might have been appropriate. Was each part of the demonstration clearly explained? I would say yes, it was clearly explained. The slideshow, again, although I criticized it maybe 10 seconds ago, was really the backbone of the speech to keep things flowing along smoothly. So that was very, very strong in that area. Is there anything you could have done to make the speech more effective? What I would say there is maybe a personal story. Something where the actual system of Evernote, maybe you in particular, had used it to recover a note that